Hello there, it's Josh here from Tungsten Tales, and today we're here to bring you some news from last week and an update regarding Mervyn King, the former top 10 in the PDC darts player, was officially declared bankrupt last week, and in an exclusive interview with The Sun said that he owed over £500,000 in taxes, which were almost completely unpaid throughout his darting career. Before we get to the story revolving Mr. King and his taxes, we'll just run through the man himself and the darting career he's had. Rose to prominence in sort of the late 80s and into the 90s as a BDO player. And his first real moment of glory came in the BDO, obviously now WDF, World Masters. In the 2004 World Masters, he was the champion. That was one of the BDO majors back in the days, and he was a runner-up in the WDF, then BDO World Championships that year and 2 years previous as well in 2002. Went on to compete in the PDC, of course, was a top 10 player, a top 16 player for many, many years. Went on the floor, was a runner-up in a number of big major events, including the Premier League back in the day. And more recently, just a few years ago, had a fairly major resurgence at the top of World Darts. He was in a PDC Masters final with Johnny Clayton, where the winner of that match would be into the Premier League. King was defeated in Milton Keynes on that night by Clayton. And just 6 months or so later, Clayton would be crowned the Premier League champion. So, oh, how different it could have been for Mervyn King back in the Premier League. He was a Players' Championship finalist as well. And if you look through the record he's got in PDC majors, it's absolutely scattered with semi-finals and runners-up, although has never managed to capture that elusive PDC major to add to the big events, the TV events that he won in his BDO days. So sad news, really, that former top 10 player in Merv has been declared bankrupt and said that he owes north of £500,000 after essentially not paying his taxes during his darts career. The article goes on to say, for the past 2 decades, the OK veteran admits, I hid my head in the sand as debts mounted up. Mervyn King, now 58 years of age, and was made insolvent last week at the High Court of Justice in London. There's a lot of stress, obviously, from King at the moment. He goes on to say in the article how worried he is about his house being repossessed, but more worried about his dogs. He says he has 3 dogs, a Pyrenees mountain dog, a Newfoundland, and a golden retriever, and is extremely worried about them being repossessed. If he isn't able to pay his debts or find out a way of paying his debts, I would say. He goes on to say, Tracy's worried that we're going to lose the house, but if we do, we do. There's nothing I can do about it. It's all down to the official receiver and what he wants to do. I'll have to deal with him fairly and honestly, so anything he wants to know, he can have. I have made the move to contact them. I knew this was coming. He then goes on to say that he realised his mistake as such in 2020, and has only really come to the realisation in recent years that he should have been paying tax on his earnings from the PDC, making up what I'd say is maybe not a common mistake, but an easy to make mistake between earnings and winnings. You don't have to pay tax on winnings, so things like the National Lottery, for example, but you do have to pay tax on earnings as you would in any regular vocation or job. And the King made he didn't make the distinction between earnings and winnings, and that's why he finds himself in the current situation that he is in, despite it sort of being labelled as prize money, what you get from winning and competing in PDC events or any darts events, but particularly PDC events. they do go down as earnings rather than winnings, and that's why King finds himself in this position. He says, over the past 4 or 5 years, I haven't slept a lot at night worrying about this. The trouble is that you think the gravy train will last forever, and it doesn't. I cannot turn back time, unfortunately. He goes on then to say, he's trying to help others so they won't end up in the same position. It's not a place to be, trust me. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. I want to hopefully try and help up-and-coming youngsters so that they don't end up in the same predicament as I did. If I can help one youngster, then that's worth doing. My message is, don't do what I did. Don't hide your head in the sand when you realise you're in a bit of a slump with HMRC. For want of a better word, I was quite naive when it came to tax. Believe it or not, I actually thought with it being winnings, I didn't have to pay tax on it, but it was earnings as such. So I think a harsh lesson, not just for King, but a lesson that can be taken by darts players of future and the current influx of the players that we're seeing into the game. I'm sure many that have management would be aware of this, or the management will deal with the taxes side of things, but young players that maybe get their tour card for the first time or earn money through things like the development tour or the challenge tour, they wouldn't be aware of the rulings about this. And maybe that's something the PDPA maybe has to speak to young players about. They have to be more aware of the certain financial rules, I guess, around being a darts player and around the taxes you have to pay. So sad week, sad times really for Mervyn King, who is now competing on the seniors tour, 58 years of age. He's been competing on the pro tour as a top up from the challenge tour as well, and it'd be great to see him back on the pro tour. The game is certainly still there for Mervyn King, but certainly a lot in his personal life that he needs to sort out, and probably is a significantly bigger priority than darts at the moment. Let us know what you think about the story below, and what needs to be done to make sure darts players are more aware of the rules around HMRC. Thank you very much for watching once again here on Tungsten Tales. We'll be back later in the week. We've got Pro Tours running Tuesday and Wednesday, and then into the weekend where the next set of challenge tours, where I assume Mervyn King will be playing. And we'll see you guys very, very soon.